Hi guys, my name is Lindsay Blackwell and I am a homeschool mom of 4 in Colorado. And yes, this is my schoolroom / dining room behind me, as you can probably tell, the whiteboards and the books and all. So you're thinking about homeschooling and currently talking specifically to those of you who are what we might call accidental homeschoolers, where because of COVID-19, you are feeling somewhat forced into looking into homeschooling. Are you ready to have your kids home all day long, under your feet, and just in your business all the time? Okay, great. I wasn't either when I started homeschooling, and I actually didn't hate it. So hopefully that's a little bit of encouragement to those of you who are maybe not as excited about this journey. I had 4 kids within 5 years, and I did not cry when I sent any of my kids to kindergarten. With everyone, I was like, I waited 5 years for this moment to, have you be somewhere else for a little while, because I was a full-time stay-at-home mom. So when we started homeschooling last year, that was a big change for us and not something that I ever really saw myself doing. But I say that to hopefully encourage those of you who never thought you would be homeschooling, that it doesn't have to be terrible, and that if I can do it, I definitely believe that you can do it. I'm going to be citing a lot of different resources, websites, different things. So I'm going to have those in the description. Getting started. How do you do this? So first thing, if you have decided to homeschool, you're going to need to do one of 2 things. The first would be either to write a letter of intent to homeschool and give that to your school district. In the letter of intent, it needs to include your child's name, age, place of residence, and attendance hours, which I don't actually know what that means because I did not do this. I took option number 2. What I will say about attendance hours is that the school district requires 172 days of instruction, and each day is supposed to be comprised of 4 hours. So when it says attendance hours, I'm guessing that's like you would do 172 times 4, and hey, here's the number of hours we're gonna do. That letter of intent would need to be turned into the school district 14 days prior to you starting instruction with your child. And if that's what you do, you will continue to have to, every year you choose to continue homeschooling, you would need to give them that same letter. You would be turning attendance records into them. Testing records would go directly to them. I chose option number 2, which is to register with what's called an umbrella school or a cover school. An umbrella school is a type of private school for homeschoolers, which sounds a little bit confusing. Basically, you're registering with a private school, but you are schooling them at home. Depending on the umbrella school, they have very little involvement in what you actually do at home. The purpose really is just to help you comply with your state's school attendance, record keeping, and testing laws. Most of the record keeping has to do with immunization records, that kind of stuff. They just provide an added layer of protection and security in meeting your state's requirements. They are very knowledgeable about your state requirements, where sometimes it can be confusing to us what we need to do and when and how. So it's nice to have a school that is protecting you and looking out for you and protecting your homeschool rights and telling you this is exactly what you need, submit it to us, and then we submit them to the school district. So they're kind of a middleman, but they are a layer of protection. Some of these schools have buildings where they meet together for weekly classes, while others don't have a building, they don't offer classes. And even the ones that do offer classes, you don't necessarily have to go to those classes to be registered with that school. I'm registered with CHEC, we call it CHEC, which is Christian Home Educators of Colorado. And their requirements are 172 days of instruction. I turn that in for each individual child at the end of the school year. So I don't have to like log in daily or weekly or anything like that. It's end of the year, I turn that in. In order to register with them, I do have to have updated immunization records or an exemption letter. They require that every school year that ends in an odd year, so that would include this year because it ends in 2021, that every child 3rd grade and above gets tested. And then on their website, they have all the information as to, you know, what that means, what tests you can do, how you can do them. It's a great support system. It does cost money, so you do have to register and pay for that. But I feel like it's very well worth the money to have that just security, and it's taken care of and I don't have to worry about it. So the next thing are the co-op groups. I got a lot of questions about that. I have not participated in a co-op group yet. I have a lot of friends and even family members who have participated in FACE. I have a website that you can go to that lists all kinds of different co-op groups. FACE is one of them. They meet on Fridays. We also have a group called Brighton Options, it meets in Brighton, actually at our church building, Harvest Fellowship, on Mondays and Tuesdays. But I believe that they are registered with the Aurora public school system. I don't really understand that or how that works, but I know that we have some families that go to that and they enjoy that. As far as COVID-19 and co-op groups, I have no idea if they're making changes or what's going to happen with that. So that's just something you guys will have to look into a little more. I know co-op groups are a great way just to have a supportive community around you, especially if you're new and you're wanting that. They offer additional instruction for classes that are maybe like math or science that are getting a little more advanced and are harder for us as parents to teach our children. Music, drama, art, some of them even do, you know, like dances and things just to give the kids a little more of a school experience. There are also Facebook groups that are like homeschool Facebook groups for different communities, local communities, where, you know, some moms are like, hey, you guys want to get together and go to the park, and it's just a much less structured. It's not a co-op group, but it's just a way to get connected with other homeschool families if you want to do that. So the first thing that I want to encourage you guys to be thinking about, especially if you've decided to homeschool, is to know your why. I went to a homeschool conference last year when I was deciding to start homeschooling the rest of my kids. And that was something that was emphasized over and over and over again. And pretty much every single class that I went to, it was know your why. And part of that is because it's the vision for you and your family that keeps you motivated, it keeps you focused, and it keeps you encouraged, because even though this is doable, it's not easy, and you're going to have times of discouragement and wondering why. Why am I doing this? Is it even worth it? And so it's good to know your why. Being that a lot of us are accidental homeschoolers, the why right now is maybe not really compelling. It may not give us a very positive, clear vision because we're feeling forced into something that was not ever our plan. And so our why is more about, you know, our concern for our family's health, our concern over our children's education. There's worry, there's fear kind of wrapped into it, anxiety, and it doesn't feel like a very positive experience. And it's okay to have those things be the motivating factors to making this decision and wanting change. That was sort of my journey with homeschooling my son. I took him out of 4th grade halfway through the year and homeschooled him first a couple years ago. And they weren't like the most horrible of situations at all, but they weren't super positive. It was just a lot of feeling discontent with our school experience and looking at the future. And he's going to be going into junior high soon. He's in 6th grade this year. And at the time I was thinking like, oh gosh, like I don't even know about junior high now. What I did learn, even though it was not the most positive thing, is I was able to define my whys as I went and make them more positive. I liked the challenge of keeping the joy of learning alive for my son. And I enjoy learning. And so it appealed to me. I wanted to keep the joy of learning alive in myself. I loved having autonomy. You get to choose the direction that you go. I get to decide what the curriculum is. I get to decide the focus. Do I want my son to be focused on tests or not? I like setting the schedule. I like having days where we can sleep in if we want to. I like that I don't have to worry about calling in and excusing an absence. That sounds little and silly, and that's not a good reason to homeschool your kids. But there were just many things like that where I realized I really like setting the tone here. I like having the autonomy to have the responsibility over these decisions. I also felt a lot more purpose in being a mom again, rather than just meeting all of their physical needs, which I don't find very fulfilling. I don't enjoy very much. Some moms do, and they love it, and that's great, and I just don't. So this actually gave me a renewed feeling of purpose in being a mom. I was building relationship with them and influencing them during formative years. So even if you feel like your why is a more negative thing, that you are running away from something, I would encourage you as you start this journey to be looking for something you can run to, and something that can be positive and encouraging, that can become your why to help sustain you for the rest of this season, however long it may last. Give yourself goals. Definitely set some goals for yourself, but be able to give yourself grace. So when you don't meet those goals, or when something has to change, days when you feel like a failure, give yourself grace and don't wallow in it, and don't beat yourself up, and know that those days are going to happen and it's okay. Get a planner. This is a very practical thing. I love planners, calendars. I have way too many. So I'm gonna show you some visuals of my planner. It's the only one that I've ever used, so I don't have a lot of experience with many other planners, but I loved it. So I don't intend on changing planners anytime soon. It's called the Ultimate Homeschool Planner, and I really think it is. And I love the covers, they're really pretty. Here's an overview of the school year, and also they have monthly calendars in here. All of the dates are blank, so you can use this for any year, which worked out really well for me because I started this halfway through my son's 4th grade year. So I started this in January 2019, and I was able to still use it for most of all of last year. I think I only had 1 month that I then had to transfer into my next planner. So that's nice because, you can use it for just different time periods and you put in those dates. Here's the weekly planner. What's great about this is having it be blank, it gives you a lot of options as to how you want to lay this out. On the side, you could have subjects, you could have children's names, depending on how many kids you're homeschooling. You could have days of the week, or up above you could have days of the week, or subjects, or all kinds of different things. And there was quite a bit of room to write everything in there. As you can see, my well-loved planner, this is just an example of one of our weeks. What I did, because we did a unit study style curriculum, for most things we were doing stuff as a group or all the same. So Bible, geography, and science, and then the specials, which were music and art, I could tailor it to fit each of the kids' ages and grade levels, but it was all the same. So I, could write in Bible on Monday, we're all doing, Window on the World, which was a book, and then we're working on our memory verse, and we're doing that through handwriting. We're gonna practice our handwriting through that memory verse. Same thing with geography and science. English language arts, they all would do spelling. LL stands for language lesson. They were on different books and levels, but the same curriculum, so they were always on the same lesson. That didn't change. Reading would just be reading on their own time. And then Bro is my youngest, Broden. He was the only one, since he was in kindergarten, that I really had to differentiate when it came to these lessons. And so he had his own little section. Then math, they were all using the same curriculum, but focusing on different skills and different books. So they would be on different things, but it was easy just to break out, okay, this is what Buddy's doing, what Adele's doing, what Anya's doing, and then what Broden is doing. They also, after every week, would have these weekly reflections, which I honestly only did one once. But some people might really like this stuff. Bible plan, battle plan, prayers, hospitality outreach, this week's memorable moments and achievements, evidences of grace. They also had things like scores. And so if you wanted to have a place to write down scores for, say, tests or spelling, if you're going through math drills and you want to keep track of, where they're at on their times tables, that kind of thing, you could utilize that. I didn't, but they have a lot of other resources in there that are very functional. So then the next thing that you want to do is create your school year calendar. Autonomy, again, this is up to you. What is gonna work best for you and your family? My sister-in-law, because her husband had Tuesdays off and worked Saturdays, she followed that, and they took Tuesdays off for school and they did school on Saturdays, and that's what worked for them. So, is that something you want to do? Do you want to do a 4-day week, which was what the school system had been doing last year? Do you want to keep that up? Do you want to go back to 5 days a week? Do you want a month off for winter break? You could do that. Do you want to follow the district calendar? You just want to make sure you got your 172 days of instruction planned. This year I'm doing what's called an interval schedule. Basically about 6 weeks of schooling on and 1 week off. So if you think about it in like working out terms, where you're like, you go really, really, really hard for a little while and then you rest and have a break for a little bit. My plan is to start the first week of August. We will probably get out the last week of May, but we will have I think we'll have about 4 or 5 week-long breaks, including 2 weeks off for Christmas. So we'll see how that goes. Then the next thing is creating your daily schedule. Now, you may need to have your curriculum in order to do this, so I might be getting a little bit ahead, but I do just want to show you some options. Like, here's what I did for my daily schedule. This was a pretty typical weekly schedule for us from 9 to 9:30 because I am not a morning person. I was not wanting to do school before 9. I would rather go later in the afternoon. We would do Bible. 1-1 means one-on-one. So I wanted to know like what subjects were going to be one-on-one. G is group, or I is individual. Bible was group, that was all the students. Then we would do geography. That was always as a group with all the students. Science, depending on what they did for science, sometimes it was as a group, and then sometimes it was individual, and I would put that in their rotations. You'll see that on Tuesday. We do Bible, geography, and then math, which is all the kids at the same time, but they're working individually. Every day I did have a break and snack time, which is kind of funny because I'm typically not one to think that kids need snacks and breaks and all that, but it actually was very helpful. It was a good thing for them to be able to look forward to know I'm always going to have this 20-minute break. It also gave me a break before starting rotations to get ready for rotations, which I realized I really appreciated. So then like on Monday, because science we did in the morning as a group, I had math in the rotations, and I have them broken up by the green, the blue, and the purple. I rotated between Adele, Anya, and Buddy. Because spelling was always one-on-one, even though it was not very long, it was maybe like 5 to 10 minutes of one-on-one time, I did need to have a way to rotate through each of the kids. And the rest of that work that they were rotating through needed to be work they could do individually. Math was typically individual. Sometimes they would need my help and I could help them. We would work that in, but for the most part, it was individual. LL is their language lesson. Depending on the lesson, sometimes it was individual where they could just work on it by themselves. Sometimes it was one-on-one. And so for me to know, I would have that marked so I could know. As soon as I'm done with spelling with Buddy, I need to go over to Adele and help her because her language lesson is somewhat individual, but then also she's gonna need one-on-one help with me. Then usually we would have lunchtime around noon, and 45 minutes I felt was a decent amount of time. And then after lunch was kind of our chill stuff. That's when I would do phonics or ELA with Broden, who was in kindergarten last year. And so he really needed that one-on-one time with me. But honestly, like you see 25 minutes, it was not long instruction. And he did awesome. I'll do another video with the curriculum that I used for him and just some other options for working with pre-K and kindergartners. But that's like the amount of time that I spent with him. And then, about 25 minutes for math, or longer if he wanted to. And then that's when the other kids would do their reading individually. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays, we would have specials. So music was Monday and Thursdays, art was Tuesdays. That I have at the end of the day, because that is the thing that, even though we tried to keep up with it, it was the thing that if I was gonna have to let something go, or I had an appointment, or we just were not feeling it, then that's what I could let go and not feel too guilty about. Fridays were a lighter day for us, and that's kind of how the curriculum was designed to begin with, which worked well because I work on Fridays. I clean our church, and I typically do that on Fridays. During the school year, it takes me between 5 and 6 hours to get all of the cleaning done. So I'm gone pretty much all day. Thankfully, my mom typically would come and do school with the kids, but if not, they were able to do a lot of this stuff on their own. And so they would do Bible, math, and they'd have rotations again, and they'd rotate between their writing lesson, reading, and then piano lessons, which I just had on our tablet through an app that we subscribed to. And then geography game was something that they could do on their own. It was something that we did continually throughout the year, because that was one of our big focuses, was learning geography. So another piece of encouragement that I want to give you, but might sound a little bit scary and like a little bit of pressure, is that this is now your job. And that might sound scary, but I want to tell you why that's supposed to give you a certain amount of freedom as well. Because this is going to require a lot of your time and your energy, just like a job does. You're replacing a teacher, which is an actual job, okay? You are not a volunteer, even though you're not getting paid. This is not a volunteer thing. This is important, like a job. You prioritize this like a job. You don't just squeeze this in whenever it's convenient. This is a non-negotiable, just like jobs are. Treating this like a job, it will give legitimacy to all of the hard work that it's going to take. It's doable, but it is hard work, and it's good to be realistic about that. You also want to communicate to others that you take it seriously. Oh, now that I homeschool, am I going to be available to just like drop whatever I'm doing to go hang out? Well, yes, I have the freedom to choose to do that, but I don't have the freedom to not also have the consequences that come with that. So that's where, yes, there's freedom in this. You have freedom to choose a lot of things, but you do not have freedom from the consequences of those choices. And some of those consequences are not worth the stress that may come from it. You're gonna want the objectivity of saying, this is a job, I treat it like a job, when there are other things wanting your attention. When the dishes are piling up, but you really need to lesson plan for the next day, you wanna treat it like a job. When people are wanting to hang out with you, or you're battling with, I should be able to, work our schedule to where we can fit these things in, you treat it like a job, okay? That is okay. It's important, it's hard work, it's your job. All right, so speaking of jobs, I had questions about working while homeschooling. I cannot really speak to this experience because my job is super, super part-time. Like I said, I work on Fridays, and that's pretty much it, which, my mom still came in and helped with the kids that day. I can't really speak to that experience of working even a part-time job, much less a full-time job, while homeschooling. I would say I would see that as being very difficult depending on the number of kids you're planning to homeschool, the hours that you work, how draining your job is, the grade level of your child and their ability to work independently, and also the curriculum that you choose. Because homeschooling is basically a part-time job in and of itself, you do need to be realistic about you're adding that onto your plate. If it's something that you really want to do and you feel like it's the right choice and good for your family, I think you can do it. But I will say it is going to be difficult, and it is going to be hard work, and it might take you getting creative. It might take you asking other family members to come in and help you throughout the week with teaching and instruction, I definitely think that will have an influence on the curriculum that you choose as well. So as far as curriculum goes, I will go through the curriculum that I have used and review it in some other videos. I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to give you a couple of different resources that I found very helpful when I was first starting out, because curriculum was like, the most overwhelming, stressful thing to me, because it's expensive, it feels like an investment, and I'm not one to just go, oh, that didn't work after, a month, let's change curriculum. Like, I felt like, oh, I picked this, I'm gonna be stuck with it. So first of all, my encouragement is do what you want to do. Even though you want to do stuff that your children will enjoy and that will speak to them, that they will be able to learn well with, if you are miserable because you do not like the style of curriculum, you do not like the style of teaching, that is going to come through more than anything. So if you are miserable and you don't like it, don't do it, okay? Your children are taking cues from you. So you do what you are going to be inspired by, you do what is going to work well for your teaching style, because I think that's going to be the most important thing for your homeschool experience, both for you and your children. The other thing is to teach your child, not the curriculum. So even if you find a curriculum that you love, you're going to have things about it that don't connect super well with your child, or they'll have things that you just don't necessarily want to do or skip over, or you want to modify. If your child is struggling with something, modify as much as needed. Don't be so hung up on teaching the curriculum exactly that you end up not actually teaching to your child. This website is Kathy Duffy Reviews. She reviews, oh my gosh, like I think every homeschool curriculum on the planet. So it is an extensive resource that can be overwhelming, but it is a great place to start. She goes through every single curriculum. She tells you if it's faith-based or secular. Most curriculums are faith-based, but there are some secular ones out there as well, if that's what you would prefer. I found her reviews very, very helpful, especially that she breaks them up into like core curriculum, unit studies, all in one, ones that are just focused on language lessons, focused on math. So you can at least get a feel for what is out there, the price, and just get her opinion on things. Another thing that I found helpful was at that homeschool conference that I went to, we did one class where she went through she called them the 5 flavors of homeschooling. And that would be the traditional, classical, Charlotte Mason, unit studies, and unschooling. And she had one word to kind of encompass that style of learning and teaching. And for traditional, it was know, as in knowledge. Classical, it was think. Charlotte Mason was grow. Unit studies were do. And unschooling is live. So at this website that I'm going to have in the resources, you can go to this, click on the small icon to view the PDF handout, and you can take the assessment. That'll kind of tell you maybe what your flavor is, what you're leaning toward. And then it also has a list of different curriculum for each flavor. So that might be a good one to do first, and then go to the Kathy Duffy reviews so that you know, oh, I'm more of a unit study person. I can go and look up My Father's World or 5 in a Row. For unschooling, it's whatever, because unschooling, it's kind of a weird term because you're not like undoing the schooling that they've done. It's more of just you are building your own curriculum. You're taking whatever you want, life, just going to the library, like you basically just do whatever you want and teach whatever you want. And that counts as school, just life. If you are thinking that this is a temporary season in your life, that you're maybe only going to homeschool for this year, and especially if you're a person who you don't really want to deviate from what the school district was doing, you want to be able to send your kids right back into the public school system without any issues, any hiccups, A traditional curriculum would probably be the best way to go for you. I don't know about these, but I know that there's K-12 and Connections Academy, which are free online public schools. I don't really know much about them. I just know they're out there. Maybe check them out if that's something that is of interest to you. Some online curriculum is allinonehomeschool.com. That one is free. It's kind of weird to call it a curriculum. It's basically a mom who did her own curriculum and made that available online. And I did this for Buddy for that half of year of 4th grade because I was so overwhelmed with curriculum choices. I didn't want to spend a bunch of money. I had no idea what I was doing. And with this, I was able to basically just find whatever day of the school year he would have been going into, found that day on her website, and just jumped in from there. They're all online resources. It's all free. It was a great option for us at that time in that season. I didn't love it to continue doing it, but if you're not sure what curriculum you want to do and you want to just have something in the meantime, this might be a good option for you. My kindergartner started doing ABC Mouse. I don't know that it's considered like a full curriculum, but it's a great online learning resource. It is a subscription, but he loves it. There's time for learning. They are a full range of subjects, curriculum online. They also are subscription based. And Adventure Academy. Now I haven't done Time for Learning or Adventure Academy, so I can't give you any opinions on those. I just know those are some options. Ways to get cheaper curriculum, I'm all about that. My husband is an eBay freak, so I got a ton of stuff on eBay. I would look up all of the books that would come in my unit curriculum, and I would buy basically any of the consumables that I had to get through them, and then find pretty much everything else on eBay for cheaper. So always check out eBay. There is a bookstore in Loveland called Salt and Light Learning Bookstore. I'm pretty sure it's in Loveland. You can go to their store, or they also have a website. You can look it up online, and they have curriculum or all kinds of different books for cheaper. Another thing that I didn't even think about until a friend mentioned this to me a couple weeks ago is that there are Facebook groups or pages for specific curriculum. Like there's one for My Father's World, which is what I've been using, that I probably could have gone to, and parents have been like, hey, we're not using this anymore. Who wants all of this curriculum for a much cheaper price? So that might be another way to go if you know what curriculum you want to get. My closing advice to you is you will be okay and your child will be okay. You're not going to get left behind. This is not something to stress out and freak out about. This is a learning and growing opportunity for you and your family. You are equipped more than you realize. Also, don't homeschool with FOMO. So especially for those of us who our kids have been in public school, we're taking them out of this public school experience, we're thinking about the things that they're going to be missing out on. They probably don't even know. Like, you are way more aware of that than they are. Homeschooling with FOMO, it's just gonna stress you out. You know, so just don't do it. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Now, that can go for anything. That could go for homeschooling. What I'm really talking about is all the extra things that you can add in to your stuff. So just because you can do music and art, and you can do sports, and you can do a co-op group, and you can do, I don't know, a million other things. You can do them. Doesn't mean you should. Does not mean you have to. Does not mean that you need to feel guilty if you decide this is not the time or the season to be adding these things in. It is okay. Simplicity equals peace. That is what I found. To close, I just want to pray over you guys and this upcoming school year. Father God, I pray your blessing over all of these families that are in this new season of their lives that is maybe unexpected and has kind of thrown them for a loop. But God, you see them. You see the decisions that they are having to face. You see the anxieties and the fears and the worries. You see it all, God. I pray that you would give them a peace that passes all understanding, that you would give them wisdom in making these decisions, Give them courage and strength to push through the obstacles. Give them love for each other, for their families. I pray that supportive groups would just spring up all around them to help encourage them along the way. God, I pray that, especially for the moms, that you would just wrap your arms around them and let them know that they are doing a good job, and that you're there for them, and that you love that they are wanting to do what is best for their families. And I just pray that all of the decisions made over this upcoming school year would give glory and honor to you. God, we know that the enemy is the one against us. We know that what the enemy wants for evil, you are able to work for good. And I pray that just really comes through in this new season. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.